In the heart of Rosewood, a small and quiet village surrounded by golden fields and soft hills, life moved slowly. The roads were dusty, the air was fresh, and everyone knew everyone. There were no tall buildings here, no busy markets, no loud horns, only the songs of birds in the morning and the rustle of leaves when the breeze passed. Lena, a simple village girl, lived in a small mud house with her father. Her hands were rough from helping in the fields, but her heart was soft and full of dreams. Every morning, she woke before the sun, tied her hair with a worn-out ribbon, and carried water from the old village well. Her clothes were plain, often patched, but she wore them with quiet pride. She loved reading old books she borrowed from the village schoolteacher. She didn't have much, but she had kindness in her eyes and hope in her heart. The villagers liked her, and children often followed her around, smiling and laughing. One hot afternoon, something unusual happened. A black car rolled into the village, polished, shiny, and very out of place. The engine hummed low, and the tires stirred the dust on the road. People peeked out of their windows. Children stopped playing. It parked near the schoolyard, and from it stepped a young man, tall, neat, wearing a clean white shirt and shiny shoes. He had a watch on his wrist that gleamed in the sun. His name was Armin. He had come from the city to visit his grandfather, who lived in a quiet corner of the village, near the pond. Armin was the son of a very rich man, Mr. Zayan, a powerful businessman with no patience for small places like this. At first, Armin felt bored. There was no internet, no friends, and no coffee shops. Just trees, cows, and silence. He spent most of his time walking near the fields, listening to the wind and thinking about how soon he could go back. Then, on the third evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Armin got lost trying to find his way back to his grandfather's house. That's when he saw her. Lena was standing at the well, pulling up a bucket of water. Her hair was tied back, and a few loose strands danced in the breeze. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and looked up when she heard footsteps. Armin hesitated. "Excuse me, do you know where the old pond is?" he asked. Lena nodded. "Yes, just follow the path beside the mango tree." He smiled. "Thank you. I keep getting lost in this place." She smiled back, shy, but kind. "It's not big, just quiet." That short moment, it stayed with Armin. The next day, he saw her again near the school, helping children carry books. The day after, at the little shop, buying flour. Slowly, gently, they began to talk. They spoke about small things at first, the weather, the school, the animals. But then, deeper things, dreams, stories, hopes. Lena made him laugh. She listened when he spoke. And Armin, who had lived in noise all his life, found peace in her voice. That summer, something beautiful began under the old Rosewood skies. The days in Rosewood turned softer with time. Armin and Lena began meeting often, at first by chance, then by choice. They walked along narrow paths beside the wheat fields. They sat under the old willow tree near the pond. Sometimes they didn't talk at all, just shared silence, as birds flew overhead and the breeze played with the leaves. For the first time in his life, Armin felt seen, not for his money, not for his clothes, but for who he was inside. Lena listened to him like no one else had. He told her about the city, about the pressure, about being the rich man's son. She told him about her mother, who died when she was 12, and how she promised to take care of her father since then. They were different, worlds apart, but hearts don't follow rules. Each day, their connection grew stronger. Every goodbye felt harder. Every hello felt like home. But love, no matter how pure, sometimes walks in dangerous light. One evening, Armin's father, Mr. Zayan, arrived in Rosewood unannounced. He stepped out of his black car with a frown on his face and dust on his shoes, something he clearly disliked. He was there to check on his father, but he soon found something else, his son, walking beside a village girl. He didn't ask. He didn't smile. He waited until they returned. And then, his voice shook the walls of his father's house. "What are you doing here with a farmer's daughter? Have you forgotten who you are, what your future is?" Armin tried to explain, tried to speak of Lena's kindness, her strength, her heart. But Mr. Zayan had already made up his mind. He called her names: cheap, clever, a trap. Lena never heard those words, but she felt the change. The next day, Armin didn't come, nor the next. The children she taught whispered about her in the streets. Mothers pulled them away when they saw her walk by. Even her father looked at her with tired eyes. One evening, she walked alone to the willow tree. She waited till the stars appeared, but the path behind her stayed empty. She sat on the old stone, hugged her knees to her chest, and let the tears fall, quietly. Some goodbyes are not loud. Some break you without a single word. A week later, the car came again. Armin left with his father. Lena stood near her house, holding an old scarf he once gave her to protect her from the cold. She didn't wave. She didn't cry in front of others. But her heart, it shattered in silence. Time passed, not in loud, rushing waves, but in quiet, slow drops, like rain falling on dry earth. 3 years had gone by since Armin left Rosewood. 3 springs, 3 winters, 3 birthdays Lena didn't celebrate. She no longer visited the willow tree. She no longer looked at the road near the pond. But every night, when the world was asleep, she opened the old notebook, the one Armin had once drawn in, a small heart, with her name inside. Lena had become stronger, not colder, just quieter. She now taught full-time at the village school. The children adored her. They called her Teacher Lena and made her laugh. But no one knew that behind every smile, a little piece of her heart still whispered his name. She had no letters, no messages, not a single sign from Armin, but her soul, it waited anyway. Far away, in the busy heart of the city, Armin was not the same boy either. He had grown, older, wiser, tired, but determined. After leaving Rosewood, his father sent him abroad to study, to forget nonsense and focus on his future. But Armin never forgot. He remembered Lena's hands, rough but warm, her laughter under the stars, the way she looked at him, not like the son of someone powerful, but like someone real. When he returned from abroad, he told his father, "I won't work for you." Mr. Zayan was furious. "You'll ruin everything." But Armin had made his choice. He rented a small apartment. He started working at a publishing house. Late nights, cheap food, endless hours. But it was his life. Not borrowed, not gifted. His. He wrote stories in secret. Stories of a village girl who taught him what love meant. Of a tree, a well, and a promise never broken. He didn't know if Lena still remembered him. He didn't even know if she was married. But in his heart, he hoped. He believed. One day, when I'm ready, I will return, not with my father's name, but with my own. And then, the day came. Armin stood at the train station with a small bag in his hand. The sun was just rising, and in the sky, a single bird flew toward the hills. It was spring again in Rosewood. The trees were full of blossoms. The air smelled of wet soil and soft flowers. Children ran through the streets, laughing, their feet dusting up little clouds. And Lena was sitting under the willow tree for the first time in years. She hadn't meant to go there. Her heart had simply walked the path on its own. Her feet had followed without asking. She sat there quietly, watching the water shimmer in the pond. Memories danced in the wind, some sweet, some aching. Then, a shadow fell across the grass. Slow, steady footsteps came closer. She turned. Her breath caught. It was him. Armin. He looked older, but not tired. He wore simple clothes, a small bag slung over his shoulder. But in his eyes, the same warmth, the same truth. Lena, he whispered, her name, like a song remembered after a long silence. She stood slowly. Her hands trembled. "Is it really you?" she asked. He nodded. Tears welled in his eyes. "I told myself, the day I was truly free, I would come home." She didn't speak. She stepped forward, and in the space between them, 3 years melted away like snow under sun. No promises needed, no questions asked. That evening, they walked through the village together. Heads turned. Some whispered, but Lena didn't care. And Armin, he wasn't afraid anymore. He met her father, sat on the same old wooden bench, held the old man's weathered hand, and asked for a blessing. They didn't rush. They didn't run. They rebuilt a small house near the pond, with soft lamps, shelves of books, and a window that opened toward the willow tree. Armin started a small printing press. Lena taught children, just like before. And at night, under the quiet sky, they sat side by side, sometimes speaking, sometimes just holding each other's hands, because love, when real, doesn't fade with time. It waits, it grows, and when it returns, it blooms stronger than before.